Whew, sorry, guys. What the heck? All right, guys. Good morning. I don't know if you guys heard me coughing up a storm there. It was pretty bad. I took a sip of coffee and there's just something in my throat. But happy May. 1st of May, we made it to, I don't know if it's any different than any other day, any other month right now, because we're still in quarantine, but with less restrictions. But happy Friday as well. It is Friday, right? We got to keep track of my days. And I just got to get these allergies out of my my throat here. It's always in the morning where things are kind of weird for me, but it's going to be an interesting day. We are approaching a new month and hopefully out of this quarantine where we can go back to work. But thank you for joining me here on the live show. This is the show version live show where I'm going live every day for the next 7 days at 7 a.m. Pacific time. This is day 2 of the live stream. So I decided to go live as a way to get out of my comfort zone, maybe as a way to get these allergies out of me, but to do something different and also do it early so that I can set the tone for the rest of my day. And so today I'm actually going to talk business and not really any technical discussions here, because I do really like talking about business. I think it's fun because I run my own side business as a consultant where I do Wi-Fi consulting, Wi-Fi design, configuration, troubleshooting, you name it. And so I wanted to at least talk about how I got to where I am now with this side business, because it actually exploded. And I think, when is it not a side hustle? But let me know where you guys are coming from today. I see François, regular visitor, day 2 of this live stream. And maybe I will have François on later as well, because François has a business as well. He does it full time. It's his main gig, his main hustle, not a side hustle. So I think it'd be great to have him on and get his input into how he runs his business, because he's running it from Canada. I'm running mine out of the US, United States. And so we'll go there. And one of the goals that I want to make today, the same goal that I made yesterday, is 25 likes on this video. And if we hit 25 likes on this live stream, I'm actually going to share some numbers with you, some details from last year and in comparison to the previous period, see how I'm doing and what it actually means. And this is just the revenue, not actually what I net in, but hit that goal of 25 likes during the live stream and we'll talk about those numbers. I haven't really shared the numbers with anyone else, but I thought it'd be interesting since it's just a side hustle. So we'll see. We're already at 2. Great. All right. So what I really want to talk about, the main focus of this live stream, is to talk about 7 things that I've learned from running a side hustle. So a lot of you guys know, and François wants to know what happened to the horror story from yesterday. That didn't even happen because we didn't hit 25 likes during the live stream. So I'm going to save that for another day, maybe tomorrow or We'll see. We'll keep carrying it on, but I'll keep it until it actually happens. So I'm going to talk about the 7 things I've learned from running a side hustle, because I've been doing this since 2017, I believe, when I actually incorporated the side hustle and then slowly have grown it over time. So it's been about a few years. And the way I got to this point is I had a business. Actually, I've had this entrepreneurial spirit in me for a while. In San Diego, where I used to live, I actually used to be a wedding photographer. So I had a photography business. And that was while I was working as a systems administrator as my full-time gig. So the photography thing was a side hustle. I was only doing it on weekends because weddings always happened on a Saturday or a Sunday. And then after that, I let that one just kind of settle, and I stopped doing photography as a business. I just wanted to do photography as a hobby. And then I started up Packet 6, which started off as a blog, really started discussing technical things. And so from there, it started as writing. I got a few writing gigs here and there for different sites like Network Computing. As an example, I have a few articles there. And then when I moved to the Bay Area, I decided to try to get more clients for that business. And so I incorporated myself in Santa Clara, and now I have clients in majority that are in San Francisco, the city San Francisco. And then I have a few clients that are kind of scattered across the United States. So the side hustle has grown from just being local to now I have a couple of clients all the way on the East Coast, which becomes quite a challenge when you've got a full-time job. And so I've learned a few things here and there, and I've learned lessons from other people that I've spoken to, especially people like François. We always have business type of discussions because we obviously want to be better at what we do and we want to be successful at it. So we always talk or share our different experiences. So now's a good time to start coffee. This is my second cup of the day. It is early here, 7:07 a.m. What kind of coffee are you guys drinking? I have Phil's Coffee. It's a San Francisco-based coffee maker, and I'm drinking Ambrosia. So I had to grind the beans in the garage because I didn't want to wake everyone up with the bean grinding. But it's a fresh cup. I actually have some behind me here to refill if I have to, because we will need some. All right. So hopefully you guys will find some of these tips for yourself useful, especially if you've got a side hustle. I know a lot of us as IT professionals are doing IT on the side, and I am monitoring the chat. If you guys want to provide any input or maybe your own tips, maybe there's something that I'm sharing and I'm doing it wrong, I'm more than happy to hear about it. And so the first thing, all right, is the 7 tips, right? 7 things I've learned from running a side hustle, and maybe you can learn from this as well. Tips. And so my first tip is going to be pick a niche, because the riches are in the niches, guys. And what that means is you've got to focus on, if you're just getting started, focus on the one thing you're really good at and start there before trying to be an expert in multiple things. And so when I started Packet 6, I initially thought, hey, I could do everything in IT. I could do systems administration, doing all the servers, working on security, doing the networking and the wireless. And so I scratched that idea and then just focused on the wireless because I thought that's where a lot of people needed help. And that actually worked out very well for me. And what happened is, because if you go on my website, I only advertise that I do wireless. And what happens is with some of these clients, they end up asking me if I do other things like, hey, can you configure all these switches and the firewall? So eventually that ends up coming to you, but I really focused on the wireless first, honed in on those skills, and made myself make myself an expert in that area for the Bay Area. And it's worked pretty well where some people have referred me to other companies, and that's worked out pretty great because I don't do any advertising of my business. It's been strictly word of mouth or people finding me on a Google search. And so that's where I focus on more. And I probably should be doing more sales, but I just don't have the time to do it. So I'm not actively reaching out doing cold sales, but that's the niche that I've picked is Wi-Fi, and I still advertise it as Wi-Fi. And only if they ask me, I will provide either my input. I kind of weigh out whether or not I want to take on anything else beyond Wi-Fi, and it just depends on the project. And so that's at least making me the Wi-Fi expert in front of the customer, and not really, a jack of all trades and master of none. So I'm going for the master in wireless in front of all these different companies and any customers I'm trying to get. So that's going to be my first tip for you if you are just starting out or you're doing some sort of side hustle. I say focus on a niche and make yourself an expert there. So the second tip here is learn some bookkeeping, and then you could outsource it. And the reason why I say learn bookkeeping is because you want to know where you are in your business. You want to know how much is coming in and how much is going out. Where are you spending your money? Because I've definitely messed up some of the numbers within QuickBooks, because I use QuickBooks to manage my money and also take payment, for example. And so I ended up picking up a couple of books. I still have a lot to learn, and there's also a lot to learn with accounting software, but it's gotten me to really know on the business side of things how the business is doing. How am I with my financial health? Can I take on certain projects, and what areas do I need to focus on? Maybe I'm spending too much money. It's like your normal bank account, right? If you're not watching what's coming in and what's going out, all of a sudden at the end of the month or when you really need it, you're kind of short on cash for some reason. And so the bookkeeping helps keep track of what's coming in and in what areas am I spending money at. Maybe I should stop spending money on food with clients. I don't know, like part of that's relationship management, but you don't want to be going out eating all the time when you're not bringing in enough money from these clients, right? And I know I've seen this from the customer's point of view. It's great because the vendor or the company is taking you out for lunch or something or for coffee. But as a small business, like a side hustle, that there's not that much money coming in like these big companies have, like Cisco, for example. Their sales guys can take you out for dinner during Cisco Live, as an example. And so you want to know where your money is going. And then once you have a good understanding of the bookkeeping, just have somebody else manage that for you. Just be sure to check in every once in a while and have those reports sent to you on a regular interval so you understand what's going on. And you become kind of the checks and balances of somebody else doing the bookkeeping for you, so you can focus on what you are as an expert in, which could be wireless or networking. So that's learning the bookkeeping. And so the next tip that I have before we move forward, I do want to mention there are multiple different bookkeeping software or applications. I just chose QuickBooks because I know there's a lot of accountants that are very proficient in QuickBooks. They understand how to use it. And so that just gave me a much, it opened up my options as far as who I want to work with. And I have gone through different bookkeepers and different tax professionals. Like it's going to happen, right? And I know François makes a comment there about him hiring a bookkeeper now because he hated doing it, always procrastinated on it. And yes, they are good at what they do. They do save you time. And again, it's really just so you understand how money works in a business, how it flows, and then you could have somebody else do it for you so you can focus on what exactly you need to do as the expert in your business. Ariana, thanks for coming. All right. My next tip here is try to decline any investments from anybody, right? You want to try to do your best to do it on your own first. I know in the Bay Area, it's different here because a lot of the companies here love investors. They want to take anybody's money to start their business idea. And to me, I feel that could be a crutch, especially if now somebody else has some control over your company, right? They're not just going to give you money to get started and say, bye, you can have free money. Mostly it's because you got an idea and these investors want to make money off of their initial investment. And so they will have some control over the direction of where your company is going. Now, not to say that my business is probably not something that an investor wants to invest in, but I have worked with one guy. I have a story of he started a company based off of providing wireless to different parts of the Bay Area. It was a wireless internet service provider. I was amazed with how he was able to bring in investors to this company and basically raise over $200,000 just from investors. And this is a small company with like 2-3 people. And I could probably do the same thing, but I don't want to be, I don't know, I'm just different. I don't want to be told what to do in this company. I kind of run all those decisions. I make the decisions. And if it's a bad decision, then that's on me, right? So I try to tell people not to like take out loans just to get the business started. Try to figure out if you can be creative and do it without borrowing any money from somebody. And I think you'll be more successful down the road. It allows you to focus and really hone in on your craft and not be bothered by somebody else trying to sway you to go in a different direction only because now they have either a 25% stake in the company, for example. And so that's my tip with declining any investments. Don't go into massive debt starting the business. So everything I've done so far with my side business, Packet 6, I have earned from scratch. I might have put in a couple $100s to start because you've got to get licenses and fill out all these documents with the city and whatnot. So there was some money getting started there, especially with getting a website going. So there are going to be some investment up front, especially in networking or wireless. You've got to get some of the tools, right? I needed to get a hold of some design software, and that's not an inexpensive thing to purchase. So that is number 3. I believe we're on number 3. I'm not even keeping count. But for those of you who had just hopped in, I am doing a goal of 25 likes during the live stream. And if we get there, I will actually share my revenue for 2019 and what it means, because it is just the revenue, but I will go into some analysis of it. All right. Any questions before I move on to the next tip? Yeah, it is. François says it is pretty easy to start a consulting business without any outside investment. That is pretty true. I just think in the Bay Area, people get hung up on getting investment because that investment means hiring more people from the get-go, giving yourself a salary, and I think you just kind of lose touch of what the purpose is, especially if you're just getting started. But I don't know. I'm a little biased on that. I've seen a lot of companies take money and then those ideas go nowhere, or they pivot to a different idea. So their original idea for the business is no longer there. They've modified their business model, but that's all different from what I'm talking about. This is just a side hustle. I haven't taken any money. I haven't taken any loans to start the business, and everything I have earned through doing business with other companies through Packet 6. All right, the next tip that I have for you guys, and I have 7, so this is the 4th one. Find an excellent lawyer and CPA, because you really want to handle that kind of work with those experts so you can, again, focus on what you're good at, right? So I don't like having to write my own agreements, right? The contracts. And I know there's a lot of templates out there. You can download a template, but if you're not a lawyer and you don't read through that template and you don't understand what those terms mean, then you could put yourself in hot water if something goes wrong. And so in the beginning, I did use a template, and then when I had earned enough money to use a lawyer, I did end up finding one. I looked around in the Bay Area. I settled on someone who's actually lives in San Diego, but still in California, because that's where my business is. And he was able to write up some pretty good agreements and make sure that the company is protected from any risk, right? And so when you send these agreements, they're going to be looked at by these companies. And Brian, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by the live stream. So when you write these agreements, be sure to read through everything. And then if you have questions, be sure to ask that question to your lawyer. I know that lawyers charge by the hour, or they set up some sort of retainer, but it is well worth the money, especially if you run into some issue later down the road, because it's going to be a headache having to deal with contracts and agreements and all these lawyer stuff. And so if you do end up getting something where, for example, I was working with a company and they didn't want to use my agreement. They wanted me to use theirs. And so a lot of it had terms I didn't even understand what they meant. So I ended up forwarding it to my lawyer and having him read through it. And he did point out a couple of things where the agreement puts themselves, it's in favor of that company. And so there were some things that he recommended to add or change and make them mutual. And so that's kind of the good thing of having a lawyer on your side. And if you've got the money, go ahead and try to find a lawyer. And you don't have to stick with one the whole time. Try one out. They're all different. It's just like people trying your business out. It's very different when you're working with a lawyer, trying to find someone who understands what you're trying to do and can also be responsive in your requests. So there are different people that will be helpful. And then for the CPA, I use a CPA because I find that taxes are incredibly difficult. And for those who understand about submitting taxes, your personal taxes to the IRS, just imagine submitting business taxes. It's very different, but the CPA can also help maximize your profits by taking a look at where you could leverage certain areas of your business in order to lower your taxable income rate, right? And so the CPAs are going to do your taxes. I ask them questions. They do the reports for me, and they also fill out all the forms that need to be submitted. And when you're running a business, mine is an LLC, there's all these different forms you got to take into consideration. And so having an excellent lawyer and a CPA on your side is going to make running your business a lot more easier than doing it all on your own, because there have been times where I've spent hours just going through going through a bunch of documents and a bunch of numbers in order to meet a deadline for something I need to submit, right? And so the lawyer will, again, button up your agreements, review agreements that you need to sign, and then the CPA can handle your taxes and help maximize your profits. All right, so that's tip number 4. Number 5 is one of my favorite ones, and it should be yours. It's pay yourself first, because it's your business. You've earned it. Pay yourself first, and then distribute the rest of those funds, the money, to your business. And I highly recommend checking out this book here called Profit First. And Profit First really changed the way I run my business. It allows me to whenever I receive income, I actually distribute that money to different accounts. So I have accounts like my account to pay myself. I have operating expenditures accounts. I have an account for taxes and a savings account. And I have percentages for each. So every time I get paid by a client, I will divvy up that for the allocated percentages and put them into their accounts. And it has been working successfully for me. And I don't have millions of dollars in the bank, but I do have enough for the business side, where in this period where I haven't been getting a lot of work, very little, I do have money in the savings account that I can use to pay myself if I have to. But I am lucky in that it's a side hustle, so I do have a full-time job that's still paying me. So I've been focusing on my full-time job because they regularly give me a paycheck. And yesterday I was out doing work for them. And so while I was driving there, I thought, hey, I should talk about business and the balancing act of the side hustle with a full-time job and the 7 things that I've learned. So that's tip number 5, pay yourself. All right. Tip number 6 here is you're in sales, whether or not you like it. I know a lot of us we say we're engineers, we're technical, but you're in sales. Just don't be so sleazy about being in sales, right? And we know we run into a lot of sleazy sales guys, but that doesn't have to be you. But if you're running a business, you do have to sell something, whether that's you got to sell yourself, right? If somebody is picking between you and another company to do the wireless design, well, you got to sell yourself, and you got to tell them why it's worth them investing in you to deliver those services. And so you've got to sell your services. You got to be more direct and just try to get that sale. But take note of what a sleazy sales guy looks like and just don't approach it in that way. Now, I'm not an expert in sales, but what I like to focus on are on the client's issues and how I solve them. And so if that doesn't come across very well and I don't get the sale, then I kind of reflect back and go, all right, how did that conversation go? And where did I go wrong? Maybe I didn't meet their expectations. Maybe they just didn't like me. I don't know. There's a lot of it that goes into sales, but you do have to remember that you are a salesman. And so you got to sell your services, sell whatever product you have in order to make some income and make a living, right? So the good thing for me is this is a side hustle, so I don't rely on the income 100%, but the income helps pay for a lot of things, like any outstanding debt or student loans, for example, or it allows us to go on a vacation that we've been wanting to do. So the sales part, and once you start looking at the numbers, you end up wanting to make more. Obviously, like everyone wants to make more money, but you start looking at where you're at and where you want to be and how to increase it slowly over time. And for me, I've been doing it pretty slow. But yes, having a business is a great way to learn many other skills like sales, bookkeeping, running a business, or even if you've got one other employee, now you're a manager, right? So there's so many different aspects to running a business, so many other skills. You really do wear a lot of hats, even though I have one focus, right? Got one focus on wireless, but I do have many other hats in different areas, and those skills I am learning. And so the last tip I have for you here until before we bring on François, we'll try to bring him in on this video or this live stream, is you want to differentiate yourself because everyone else is taken. And it might be easy to just look at another company and mimic what they do, but you're only seeing what they show you, right? So you want to be yourself and really be a standout as to why they should go with you. And I've won some clients because they're afraid that when they work with bigger companies, they just don't get the treatment, like that extra treatment that you get, maybe the hands-on stuff, or maybe they just felt like they were just sending a sales guy and they're not really talking to anyone else within that company, or you could be more in tune with what they need, whereas another company just is really going for the numbers, right? And so when you focus on numbers and sales, you detach yourself from why you're actually there. And so you want to find ways to make yourself different from your competition. And that means doing some research into who are my competitors in the area, what kind of work do they do, who are their clients. And so when you put up your business, you do want to show that you're different somehow, right? Because everyone else says the same exact thing, which is, here are our values. This is how we value you. We are the best at what we do in this line of industry. Like everyone says the same thing. So say something else, be different. And so those are my 7 tips, which is pick a niche, because the riches are in the niches. Learn bookkeeping and then later hand it off to somebody else. Try to decline any investments or money or loans that people want to give you to get your business started. Try to do it from scratch if you can, because you can get started without any investments from anyone. Get a hold of an excellent lawyer and CPA. You can ask around to different people. Try to pick someone that knows your local laws and also anything related to that state or county in terms of taxes. And then pay yourself first. That's very important. I should have put that one at the very top as the first tip. But ever since I've been paying myself first, I've been a lot happier. and you hear about people who say, I haven't earned a penny for 2 years because I put it back into the business. And I believe that is not healthy at all, because now you're just kind of a slave to your business, right? The whole point in maybe starting a side hustle is to generate some extra income so you can maybe buy that house that you want to buy. Maybe you want to get out of the current situation you're in, but pay yourself first. You're a salesperson, whether you like it or not. Just don't be a sleazy salesperson, and then differentiate yourself. And so with that, I think we should bring François on. And François, if you can get on Skype, I will call you and we'll see how this goes. I'm not sure how it'll turn out, but we will try. But some of the books that I recommend that you read, again, Profit First. That's by Mike Michalowicz. I'll add it to the description. And then Company of One by Paul Jarvis. That's an excellent book. I really like that one. And then High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. That book is an actually really thick book, but it was a study done on a lot of very successful people who are high performers, and there's a lot of research that went into it, and I think it's a great book to understand how some people are such high performers and get a lot of things done. So those 3 books I highly recommend. All right, so here we go. Should I bring in François? ringing. It's ringing. Right. Hey, François.
Yeah,
There you are. How are you doing?
good. I was watching you
I think I
live,
need my
so
headphones.
there's a
Hold on a second.
delay. So you're still talking.
There you go. Thanks for joining me on my live stream
No
show
problem.
version.
How's it going?
It's going well. I like talking
Yeah.
about business, so I thought I'd make day two as a business episode because I only talk to you really about the business other than my wife, and I think I would actually try to. I admire you because you do it full time. I don't do it full time. So maybe, what did you think about the tips that I had running? Mine
Yeah.
as a side hustle, but what did you think?
So no, I think they were great. What resonated with me is the niche, the one when you talked about the niche, and that's what I did when I started my business early on. I just made a kind of a commitment to myself that this is what I wanted to do, and I only wanted to do Wi-Fi. So I had like this. A commitment to myself to only take on Wi-Fi projects, and I think I only took one, more general network project in the early days because you needed to get started and bring some money in.
Yeah,
But apart from that, I've been pretty successful. I've at reaching my commitment. And you're right. If you have a niche and you dedicate, and it starts with the business model, right?
yeah,
Because everything will be related to that. Your marketing will be related to that. Your website, the message, the branding. So once you have something, and in order to choose what you want to do, you just have to follow or to just ask yourself, what do I like to do, right? Because if you do a business, it's going to end up, sucking a whole bunch of time from your life. So what do you like? What do you like to do? What do you like to work on? What do you like to talk about? And then whatever you come up with, that's what you need to focus on. If you want to, if you want to do it well, because you're going to be doing it every day for many hours. So
yeah. And I think
uh,
that's one thing that we don't even mention is how much planning that goes in the background in order to get to that point. Because you can just go straight in, but without a plan, you're kind of planning for failure that way. And when it comes to just selecting the niche, you do focus on that one thing, and you could be really good at it the more you work on that one thing.
Yeah, and talking about plan, I when I was back in university, I was working with a friend of mine when he wanted to start a business, um, and it was actually a really good business idea because he ended up being like kind of what Uber Eat does.
Yeah.
But we never followed through. But anyway, at that time, we read a book called The Business Model Generation, and it's a really nice book. It's very visual, and they give you a canvas that you can use to define your your business plan and what goes into a business plan in a very visual way, and they give you different examples, very easy to read. So if you guys want to work on that on your plan or business plan, you can read the book. It's really well made, and it's going to help you out defining who is your target audience or target customers. Are you going to need any other people to help you along the way to produce your service or your product that you want to sell? It's making sure you're not forgetting anything, because when you go into business, it's just easy to, you're going to have those what they call the unknown unknowns, right? So stuff you don't even know exist,
Yeah.
and you're just going to run your business as you think you're doing the best job, and then one day you're like, oh shoot, I didn't know about this, and then it just gonna reflect into you might reflect into the business, right?
Yeah, and I think you touched upon a good point, which is when you're creating that business plan and you're really looking at how you're going to do your business and even who you're going to target. Sometimes who you're going to target also means what industry you're going to go into, and it could be difficult to say, well, I want to service everybody, but that's a really difficult approach to take because when you're something to everybody, it's harder to actually get business that way. So maybe you could, I know you're big on warehouses, so you could you focus on, hey, I do wireless very well for warehouses, whereas some people may have very bad experiences with warehouses. And then after that, like that just kind of triggers a chain reaction where somebody tells somebody else, and then all of a sudden you've got a referral, and now you've really niched it. And I think warehouses is actually a good niche to be in for wireless, because it is a very complex thing to do.
And I mean, you know, that process is not easy. And then at the beginning, I was like thinking I could just offer it to anyone. And then I quickly realized, like, I mean, your business plan is nothing that's going to be set in stone. It can
Yeah.
evolve, and it must evolve based on your experience. Because just like any human being, you can listen to us and try to implement what we're telling you to do. But at the end of the day, what's going to drive your decisions are going to be your experiences, right? So you might try something and be like, okay, this is not working for me. Why is it not working? Maybe, I need to change my target audience or my target market. And then you're going to adjust that as you go. And that's kind of like what I did for my business, adjusting your target market as you go. And as you work on different projects, you see what works, you see where your services are needed the most, right? Where you can add value to your customers, and you tend to focus more on maybe small business, SMEs. Maybe it's a big corporation that will need your help, and you can help. You can use those experiences to get new customers and refine, where you want to put your efforts.
Yeah, and I think that goes into this bonus tip I have, which is cultivating relationships, and that means you actually want to give more than you get or you receive. You want to help people, because once you start creating those relationships and you're genuine about it, you check in with people regularly, you give them value, and in the end, a lot of that returns back to you. And in that, sometimes that will return in the form of a project that someone
Yeah.
referred you to because they know you're an expert in it. But that means being able to regularly talk to the people that have provided value to you as well.
So one thing I guess one tip I do and I can share is to do that. What I like to do is I like to keep track of my customers and which vendor they use. So do they use Cisco, Aruba, and so on? And every time those vendors release like a security patch or vulnerabilities, I would just email those customer and say, okay, here, I know you guys use Cisco, and they're 2 days they just released this patch. Maybe it could be a good idea for you guys to upgrade your controller, right? Just
Yeah.
just that, yeah, and that could help to keep in touch with them. And sometimes I get emails like, hey, nice to hear from you. We're expanding our warehouse and we need your help. Boom, it's in here.
Yeah,
you
because
know,
you're putting yourself back in front of them, right? Because they may have forgotten about you, but if you regularly touch base and give them value whenever you touch base, and it's a lot more than just saying, "Hey, how's it going? I haven't heard from you in a while. Do you have any projects that you're working on?" Like that's not what I mean by cultivating that relationship. You want to actually have a conversation with them, find out what they're doing, maybe ask them about their personal lives, like, hey, how was that vacation you said you were going to go on? Like, you actually want to uh, have conversations, right? And so
and try to bring value.
yeah, exactly. And that value
Yeah.
too is like, that's a good one. And I've done that before where I go, hey, there's this really bad bug that you may be hitting. Try to look at this and try to get ahead of it before it actually happens to you. And yeah, that helps a lot, because a lot of times, and a lot of people will know this, is you're working on whatever you're doing, that sometimes we don't have time to look at release notes or bugs or be on top of the latest news from these vendors. So I think that's one of the best ways to add value, is by always giving them what is like free stuff, right? A lot of companies won't want to help them unless they're a paying customer. And you could actually get more clients that way just by being helpful, by sending them a link to the release notes and say, hey, you've got this controller, this special certificate expires on this day. You might lose access to it. You should probably address it before that happens. And they might even just hire you to do it because they're too busy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I mean, that's really all the tips I had. I mean, we can keep going on and on about business and different aspects of it, because I could have a whole video on just QuickBooks, because it's annoying to me.
Oh my, yeah. So now I just outsource this. I used to do it myself, and then I would always, keep it for the end of the year, and then I would just have to spend like a few days locked in my office to do the stuff. And I was like, man, like this is not how I want to spend my time. And then since I outsource this bookkeeping process, it's like it's been so easy for me. All I have to do is give my receipts and everything to my bookkeeper, and then she does everything, and then she comes back to me if she has any questions,
Yeah.
and then she sends me the report I can send to the accountant. The bookkeeper knows the accountant, so sometimes I don't even know what's going on. I just know that everything is happening. They're making sure everything is right. So.
Yeah.
And that's like, I don't like, for me, I don't care paying for those services because I know
Yeah.
it's saving me
Oh, it saves.
headaches
Yeah.
and
When
yeah,
if you could be spending that time earning
yeah,
more income from more clients, then yeah, that's why you'd want to outsource some of that. And I think in the beginning, for people doing the side hustle, you'll have to do that in the beginning, unless you've got the money to put into
yeah.
paying other people to do it for you. But yeah, eventually have somebody else that is an expert at doing it do it for you, and then you could actually be the checks to it and go, okay, all right, that looks correct. Or if you
And then
catch something, you go, wait a minute, that doesn't look right.
yeah, exactly. You'll know how to navigate it. And at the beginning, you won't have tons of business or tons of expenses or anything like that. So you can actually do it yourself at the beginning, like you said, to get familiar with the terms and how to navigate the software and all of that. So you can go back and challenge the bookkeeper after that. And yeah, but I mean, once you start to get busy and busier, you actually want to focus on your work and you don't want to
Yeah,
focus on those tasks. So it's like that. It's like for anything. Like for instance, at the beginning, you might have time to do your website, um, or do any sort of other stuff to promote your business. And as you go and as you get busy, you actually want to focus on your expertise. Yeah.
all right, cool. Thanks for joining me on the live stream, Francois.
Yeah. No problem.
We're gonna bring the show to an end. I thought it was a great discussion to talk about business, and if anyone else wants to talk business like Francois has, I'm more than happy to bring you on to the live stream, and we can talk about something very specific. I kind of just laid out some things that I've learned doing the show, or the side hustle, and I think there's going to be a lot more as I keep doing business. But we didn't make it to 25 likes, so I'm not going to share those numbers yet, but maybe for another live stream. But it'd be interesting to dive deep into what those numbers mean and how I earn them. But as a teaser, let me see if I could give you one number. So my best month in August, and this is just revenue. It was August last year. It was over 184,000
In 1 month,
in 1 month.
that's good.
Just revenue though. I
Yeah.
didn't net all of that.
Did you have some resale product in there, or it was just
Yeah.
only
I had
services?
some a big chunk was services, but I did have some resales in there, and so
Okay.
so that kind of gives you a sense that even as a side hustle, I was able to make it work. I mean, there are times where you I guess one of the tips could be time management, and that's just something you learn along the way. And I think I find that I've gotten a lot better this year, in the beginning of the year and end of last year, as far as managing my time and making sure I don't get burned out.
Yeah, yeah, because it's easy when you start having a business. It's easy to look at the numbers and always want to bring more,
Yeah.
right? And like, okay, can I beat last year's revenue and all of that? But and I was like this at the beginning. At one point I was like, you know what? I prefer to have a healthy life, right?
Yes.
Or spend more time with my family, even if I don't bring as much money. Do I really need that much money?
Yeah.
And then you kind of, take a step back and be like, okay, what's important for me right now in my life?
It's about bringing enough money. And that's why I recommend people to read Company of One by Paul Jarvis, because they talk about that. There's another one too that I'll put that in the description, but it's not about just making more and more and more every single year, every single quarter. It's just making enough to live a comfortable life and a life that you can enjoy and not be a slave to the business.
Really good point. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks for joining, François. I really appreciate it. Guys, that's the end of the live stream. That's all I've got for you guys. And if you guys have any questions, put it in the comments. If there's anything you want to discuss in a future live stream, let me know. Anders, thanks for being here. You've got friends that can relate to that story. Sure. Yeah, we can have another discussion about business, more specific topic. And a huge thanks to François for joining me on the Skype call to talk more about his business and his tips. And thank you, Lariana, for joining us. Really appreciate all the support you've given to me, and Brian as well. So that's it for this live stream. And tomorrow I will be going live again. Actually woke up this morning and I thought I slept through the live stream, the time. But I actually woke up really early, but before my alarm went off. But join me again tomorrow, 7 a.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube. Hit subscribe if you want to see these videos, and hit the bell if you want to get notified when I go live. So that's all. And thank you again, Asuyakal. You're going to have to tell me how to pronounce your name so I can say it right. Thank you for joining me, and thank you, German, for also joining me on this live stream. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow. So have a great day. Get out there, be safe. I think they're starting to lay off some of the restrictions so we can go out there and see the sun. But I will see you guys on the next live stream. Bye, guys. So Jossie. Hopefully I said that correct. And German, what's your question about the Here to Send podcast? German, hit me up on Slack and I'll answer your question. Maybe we can also talk about it on a future live stream. Bye, guys.